I want to start off by reading something. This was on Threads, because I'm always on Threads. This was on Threads, and I have not been the same since. This is by creator name Natalie Means Nice. That's what it looks like. Natalie Means Nice. And they said, it's 11 p.m. on this day, the 15th of January, 2025, that I found out that you lose your labia minora during menopause. What do you mean you lose them? Do they fall off? Where do they go? And I wanted to start there. We're not going to have our usual intro. I want to start there because, one, health ed in America is trash. It's trash. Health education is not meant to do anything for us as human beings than fear monger us into not having children young, be weary of catching STIs, and that's it. That's all health education and sex ed in America does. You don't learn those things, right? Nobody goes deep into reproductive health for both men and women. No one goes into those things, right? No one talks about what happens as you age. You sort of have to find these things out on your own, or ask your doctor if they're going to give you the information, if they're going to be forthcoming enough to give you the information. You hope that they will be honest with you about all the things that your body does as you progress in age, right? Because aging, despite what anybody thinks, aging is a luxury. Never in my life would I have thought the amount of people that have transitioned from this earth before the age of 50. Okay? Like, that's been fucking me up for a very long time. At the date of this podcast recording, DJ Unk, and if you know anything about trap music, Atlanta trap music, South music, if you've heard the song Walk It Out or Two Step and you've danced to it in the club, DJ Unk is the artist who created those two songs. He passed at the age of 42, 43. He's my age. That's like unheard of. When we were kids, we didn't hear about people passing in their 40s. Back then, people transitioned on when they were like 70, 80, 90. Now, someone 10 can transition, and it's weird. Death has no age, right? So aging is a luxury. And because of that, knowing how to properly take care of our bodies is super important. And we don't, particularly women, there's not enough information on gynecological care, regardless of how you identify. If you have a vagina, if you are a vagina owner or a vulva owner, there is not enough information on reproductive care, despite the fact that it was built on the bodies of Black women, Black and Hispanic women, right? We have birth control because they took the pills down in Puerto Rico and ended up infertilizing the women in Puerto Rico, right? That's how we got birth control. They didn't know that. They thought they were just taking some type of medication to help whatever lies they sold them, not realizing it made them infertile. That's how we have birth control. A lot of people don't know that. The American gynecology is built off the live and dead bodies, the cadavers of Black women. We were experimented on, and that's how American gynecology came into existence. Nobody's going to tell you that, right? I'm going to leave that there. So because there's still not enough information on the female anatomy, because there's not enough information on the female anatomy, there are things that, as a vulva owner, you begin to experience that blows your fucking mind, which is also your labia minora, which is the outer part, begins to fuse into your vagina walls. That's called atrophy. Nobody tells you that you go through that in menopause and perimenopause. Well, menopause is not even like a whole thing. Menopause is a day. You go without your period for a year, and that's it. You hit menopause, and Now you postmenopause. The last day of the once you go a full year without your cycle, whatever that day is from the time you had your last cycle to the day before, the next day is menopause, and then you're postmenopausal. That's how it works. But for close to a decade, you're in perimenopause. So elder millennials who are in their 40s and even some millennials who are in their late 30s, you all are experiencing perimenopause. I went through perimenopause at 27 and didn't know that I was going through perimenopause at 27 until I realized I was postmenopausal at 39. Because I hadn't had my menstrual cycle for a year. 38 was the last. After my 38th birthday, it was the last year I had a menstrual cycle. Actually, after my 39th birthday, that was the last menstrual cycle that I had. So there's that. These are things that they don't tell you, right? The title of this podcast is Go Ahead, Sis, and Heaux Responsibly. Listen, if you choose to be celibate and abstain, that's your business. But this is for the single women. For the single women, for the single vulva owners who want to preserve their pocketbook, their cookie, your pussy, whatever you want to call it, you need to be giving yourself orgasms bare minimum twice a month. Bare minimum. Because if you don't, over time, your clitoris is going to shrink. And you're going to be trying to feel down there to figure out where did it go, and it shrank. Because it's not being used. It's not being stimulated. Nobody fucking tells you that shit. I found out about that maybe like a decade ago. That your clitoris shrinks over time when it's not being stimulated, when it's not being used. What the fuck? What? My labia minora is going to attach itself to my vaginal walls? What? What? No one tells you these things. But they gonna beat you over the head about being celibate. But they don't tell you the negative side effects, the health, right? The health, the adverse effects that it has on your health. Sure, it may emotionally help bring you closer to yourself. You get to hear your own voice. You get to understand your body. But if you are abstaining from sex and you're not even doing self-pleasure, you're doing yourself a disservice. Y'all gonna argue with me about it. You got some words about it. Drop it in the comments. But science says, it's science. Science says if you do not at some point have some form of stimulation, whether it's penetrative or not, if you do not have some type of stimulation with your vagina, your clitoris is going to shrink and you're going to experience atrophy. You could Google it, and then you could find your gynecologist. Hopefully you have one, and you can ask them about atrophy. And what they're going to tell you to do is that you need to masturbate. But see, somebody beat you over the head and told you that masturbation was sinful, that masturbation was nasty. And that's why you're scared to touch yourself. You probably don't even know that your clitoris is shrank. Because if you have been celibate for more than a year, it's starting. Luckily, mine has not by choice, but it's going on 3 years since I have been physically intimate with another person. It's going on 3 years. I self-pleasure, not as much as I should, but I self-pleasure enough to keep my clit from shrinking. Okay? I do it enough to keep my clit from shrinking. I do it enough so that my labia minora doesn't start to fuse itself into my vagina walls. I just got a pap smear not too long ago, and my gynecologist said nothing about atrophy, so a bitch is good. But if you haven't even had a pap smear, and God knows how long, you already behind the 8 ball. And to my knowledge, Planned Parenthood hasn't gone out of business yet. So if you need to get a pap smear and you don't have insurance, you can go to Planned Parenthood. Right? But if you are insured, which unfortunately is a luxury for most people, if you are insured, you need to find you a gynecologist ASAP, and you need to go get your coochie checked. Once a year. Bare minimum. Gotta go get your coochie checked. You don't know what's going on down there. You can't tell. You can feel things. You can sense things. You don't know what's going on down there. You need to go get your coochie checked. Do that for yourself. That's for you. That's not for nobody else. That's for you. Okay? Cool. So let's talk about Heaux responsibly for the preservation of the cooch. At this point, we got to hold responsibly in preservation for the cooch, right? If you do not want to be in any type of partner sex, you need to develop a solo sex practice for yourself. You need to get comfortable touching your body. You need to get comfortable arousing yourself. If you know that your arousal points are your breasts and you don't necessarily want to touch your cooch, then you need to get comfortable arousing yourself via your breasts or via your nipples and bringing yourself to orgasm. That helps, because at some point your clit is going to get hard when it's aroused. That means you're working. It's working something. Okay? Your vagina is being stimulated. So if you are experiencing or choosing to be celibate and you do not want to actually touch or penetrate your vagina, this is your opportunity to learn your erogenous zones. And bring yourself to arousal through your erogenous zones, and even bring yourself to orgasm through your erogenous zones. So at some point when you decide to re-enter society, you can tell the person that you decide to have a sexual arrangement with how to please you, because you done already discovered your body and you done already mapped out the areas in your body, and you know what brings you to orgasm. You know what brings you to arousal. So if you don't want to touch your vagina, if you are apprehensive about doing that, or you told yourself, no, I want to be celibate and I can't even self-pleasure because even that type of sex is bad, if that's what you convinced yourself, why, I do not know. But if that's what you convinced yourself, find other ways to stimulate. You have to, because your vagina depends on that. It depends on being stimulated. It needs to be stimulated. Your vagina is a muscle. It needs to be stimulated. It needs to be worked. It needs that. It needs that action. It needs that mobility. That's how you harness your fucking power. And two, for health reasons, that's how it's going to keep your vag safe. It's going to keep it intact. If you choose not to, then unfortunately there's some health challenges that you may experience. So to widen the gap of you experiencing these health challenges, stimulate yourself. Do it yourself. Get into it. Get into your body. Romanticize yourself. Get comfortable with the importance of fucking yourself. Get comfortable with giving yourself pleasure, because then you'll know how to receive it, right? If you decide to be partnered, here's where we talk about Heaux responsibly. If you decide that you want to have some type of casual arrangement with someone, there are 3, possibly 4, maybe 3. We'll get to it. There are 3 things you need to have. 1, your Heaux meter. You need to know your barometer, right? If you know that engaging in partnered sex is going to incite some type of emotions that have you stigmatized, then you need to do the solo practice. Here's how you know whether or not you go responsibly. If your Heaux meter from 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, if your Heaux meter is a 5 and below, then you need to get comfortable pleasing yourself. Then that ends the conversation. If you know you're 5 and below, this part of the conversation, if you want to listen in, cool. If not, I get it. You should stay to the end, but I get it. If on the Heaux meter, again, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, is a 5 and above, right? Cool. The next thing that we do is establish rules of engagement. 1, what type of partner are you trying to magnetize? What type of partner are you trying to magnetize? Write that shit down. Create a vision board. Find images and clips or whatever that help create something stimulating and arousing for yourself so that you can attach yourself to that feeling and then magnetize that feeling out, and then allow that person who's on vibrating on that same frequency to find you. You got to get clear on what type of experiences that you want to have. That's first. Then we establish some guidelines. First thing, your guidelines can be whatever they need to be, but what should be included in those guidelines and those rules of engagement and guidelines is communication. Somebody needs to be able to communicate feelings if they arise. You need to communicate if you're going to be with more than one person, and you need to ensure that the onus is on whoever you're going to be partnered with, that they communicate that they're out there bending it back and busting it open with more than one person, so that you can use protection. You should be using protection anyway, but so that you definitely use protection. And if you want to be on the chemical BC, you can. If not, find you a herbalist. Find you a herbalist. I'm going to leave it there. Find you a herbalist so you can maintain what you need. So communication needs to be a key factor in your rules of engagement. Knowing when to opt out. If this is just supposed to be maintenance for you, and you or the other person starts getting attached and it becomes too much for you, you got to know when to opt out. Whatever your threshold, your barometer is, your boundary is, that it's going too far for you, you need to set the ground rules for that, whether it's for yourself or whether you communicate that to the other person. You need to set your opt-out boundary, what that is, and you need to stick to it and adhere to it, because that's for you. Know when to opt out. So communication, knowing when to opt out, that's your boundaries, right? And the third thing is still part of communication, but being able to communicate how you want to be received, how you want to give and how you want to receive. That's important. Communicate how you want to have this experience be. That's setting ground rules with whether it's don't call or text me at this time, or we're only going to meet up at this time, or we're going to only meet up at this place, or you can't come to my house. The actual rules of engagement, what those guidelines are, that needs to be created and communicated. So at the core of you setting up a structure for yourself, y'all gonna kill me in this comments, but I'm telling you, this will help you, and I'm telling you based on experience of what I did not do and how that fucked me up. I learned these things should happen because when you don't do these things, that's how you get caught. So I'm speaking from, this is field experience. I'm speaking from experience. This is how you can navigate as seamlessly as possible, right? Emotions are going to get involved. No one's going to walk away unscathed. It is what it is, right? Because we're human beings. But in order for you to have an enjoyable experience, you should create some structure for yourself, some boundaries for yourself, and be able to communicate those things to the person who you're going to be with. Lastly, whole hygiene. You got to have some whole hygiene. And this is more than just peeing after sex, right? Peeing after sex is natural, whether you are with someone who has a penis or whether you're with someone who has a vagina. Peeing after sex is a given. That's part of the whole hygiene regimen. That's step one, right? So aside from peeing after sex, there's physical hygiene you need to have, and there's spiritual hygiene that you need to have. If you are not trying to create cords of attachments, because I do not believe in soul ties. If I can remember the podcast episode where I talked about this shit. It's the episode about caring for your friends. That's season 3. It's about caring for your friends. I talk about soul ties there. I do not believe in soul ties. Soul ties do not exist. I do not believe our souls come down here and not itself to another soul and says that we have a purpose and we are experiencing all this trauma and pain and all this other bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. I do not believe in soul ties. I do, however, believe of cords of attachment. That our energy attaches itself to one another and creates some type of cord that keeps us connected in some way. Those cords you can rip. I don't snip cords, I rip. That's the spiritual energetic thing. Maybe I'll talk about that another time. But in order for you to navigate cords of attachment or to reduce cords of attachment, you can say this one phrase that I actually use when I close out my readings with people, but this applies to any situation where you want to disconnect your energy from someone. Out of you, out of me, you say the name of whoever you're with. I close myself off to thee. You say that 3 times and end it with, it is so. Out of you, out of me, the name of the person, I close myself off to thee. Do that after you orgasm. You can say it in your head. You can whisper it to yourself. That's the beginning of disconnecting your energy from that person, if that's what you want to do. You want to keep that energetic distance between you and the person that you are having this arrangement with. You say that and you disconnect. The next thing that you need to do, besides wash your ass, because wash your ass needs to be, your physical ass, wash your ass needs to be there, is a spiritual bath. A nice little white baño. Get you some white flowers. You can get actual coconut milk, or you could get coconut milk powder. Put it into a bowl, add a little bit of water. Always keep some Florida water on you. Regardless of what your spiritual practice is, you should keep some Florida water on you. It works wonders. You put it in your laundry and it refreshes your laundry. Florida water and some salt. After you wash your ass, post-sexual arrangement, post-orgasm, you cleanse your aura with the white bath. If you do not have coconut milk or you don't want to use coconut milk for whatever reason, totally fine. You can still use the white flowers, do some water, the Florida water and the salt, and add lemon. Add a little bit of lemon juice or slices of lemon. Let that sit while prepare that before you take your actual shower. Let that sit and marinate into the water. And what you're going to do after that is you're going to grab the bowl and you are going to pour it over your head. If you have weave or braids and you don't want to get your hair wet, start from the nape of the back. Pour from the nape of the back. So you pour from the nape of the back and then you bring the bowl in front of you and you pour from the top of your forehead down. But you got to cleanse yourself. And what I typically do is say a mantra. That can be whatever you want. If you are a Christ-conscious person, you can say the Lord's Prayer. Or if you're good at writing your own spells or incantations, you say your incantations. You don't have to do this, but I do. I spin 3 times, knock on the wall. Amen. Ashe. Amen to end. Ashe. It is so. Go on about your life. You have to get into a practice of having whole hygiene, because if you don't, that's how you wrap yourself into things that you don't necessarily want to get yourself wrapped up into. That's how you create those cords of attachment and you get caught up and you're trying to understand why this can't just be a simple arrangement. There are extra emotions involved. There's always going to be emotions involved, but there are extra emotions involved. Your energy feels clogged. You feel drained. It's because whole hygiene, right? Also, choices, decisions and choices, right? Before you even get into this arrangement with somebody, have a conversation with them. Ask them, well, not ask them, just have a conversation. What does the vibe feel like? How is the interactions between you and this person? If it feels like something might be off, don't do it. Keep moving. If it feels like there's a connection, there's an energy, Explore that. When you are hoeing responsibly, and if you see anybody say hoeing responsibly, they stole it from me because I created that. all these terms you're hearing, I created those terms. So if someone else is using it, they stole it from me because clearly they're not crediting me. I created these terms a decade ago. So I'm going to just tell you that. The whole idea with hoeing responsibly is exploration. Is you exploring how you are navigating relationships with people, how you're navigating your interactions with people, how you're creating autonomy and rules with how you interact with somebody, how you are allowing yourself to be empowered and emboldened in your sensuality and your sexuality, how you are allowing yourself to grow in your eroticism as far as what you are experiencing, your pleasure, what you like, what you don't like. If you want to call it a whole phase, that's your business. But whole phase and home responsibly are two different things. Whole phase don't have rules. You're just out here free fucking. Home responsibly means you claim sovereignty and autonomy of your experience, and you navigate and you decide how you want this to look. It is so if this is what you want to do, I mean, according to science, we got to do something. But if this is what you want to do, you have control, some semblance of control. You set the guidelines, you set the rules, you set the boundaries. You preserve yourself. You create a routine and a ritual and a practice so that when you do these things, you are preserving yourself the best way you can. I'm not saying it's a foolproof strategy. We're human beings, so some shit is gonna go awry. You may set up the rules and guidelines, you may not adhere to them. We're human, right? So this isn't foolproof. There's room for error. But when you create these things, when you create this structure, it's my ADHD brain talking. So if you create this structure, regardless if you follow it to the T or not, if it's in place, you always have something to go back to. That's creating an anchor for yourself. Even if you don't even go through with it, if you decide to date and you and this person become intimately involved, you can still apply those same rules because you're not married. If you're not married, you're single. So it doesn't matter if you're in a committed relationship with somebody, you're dating and you're not married. Hey, if you're not a beneficiary on somebody's insurance policy, then it don't matter. You're single and you're just dating. So you can still apply those same rules to your dating experience. Even if you don't want to have casual sex, you can still apply these same rules and guidelines to your dating experience. It's not irrespective of anything, or it is irrespective. It is irrespective. It's not mutually exclusive. Irrespective of your experience or what you decide to do, whether casual or not, you can apply this. It is a template that you can apply. And I'm sharing this because if we do not find ways to preserve our sensuality and our sexuality, I feel like we'll become drones so focused on self-actualization that we will forego physical pleasure. We deserve to have that. There's too many attributes, there's too many things, there's too many elements, there's too many people that make us feel like physical pleasure is sinful. It's not. It's not. Can it be gluttonous? Sure. Can it be gratuitous? Sure. Because that all depends on the person and how they're utilizing this action, this energy, this essence. It all depends on the person who's wielding it, right? Who's engaging in it. So yeah, it can have adverse effects, but we are humans, carnal in nature. It is our natural disposition to have sex. That's what we do. We're mammals. Mammals have sex. Whether they're having babies or not, whether they're being fruitful or multiplying or not, animals have sex. We're just an evolved species. But that evolution of our species doesn't take away our carnal desires. If you want to suppress your carnal desires, that's your business. Just know your clitoris is going to shrink. And that's not me mere fear mongering. That's science. Science tells you if you're not stimulating your sexual organ, your vagina, if you're not stimulating that area, things are going to start to fuse together and fold in. And then whenever you do decide to have relations with somebody, it's going to be painful. And you don't deserve that, because without experiencing a trophy, many of us are already having painful sex anyway, because we think that's what it's supposed to be like. It's not. Sex is not supposed to hurt, whether you have a trophy or not. It's not supposed to hurt. It's not supposed to be painful unless that's what you like. Unless that's your kink, that's your business. But if that's not your kink, then no, it's not supposed to be painful. It's not supposed to be uncomfortable. It's not supposed to be lackluster. It's not. So until we reclaim autonomy of our sexual experiences and our body in sex, we will continue to have these experiences. And again, if celibacy is your path, that's your business. Just know that there are some adverse things that will occur if you abstain too long. And I get it. You want to find the ideal sexual partner. You're not. Nobody gonna tell you that, though. You're not. If it feels perfect, it's because the vibe is there. It's an alignment. There's always going to be something that your partner does that you don't really care for, but you allow it because you love that person. It's compromise. But perfect to the T, we're human. It's not always going to be perfect. It's really about who you allow yourself to align with. It's about knowing what you want and being able to communicate that and being open to receive. So, go ahead, sis, and hold responsibly. Save your vag. Save your vagina, boo. Stimulate it. Whether you're going to hold responsibly or whether you are going to engage in solo pleasure, you should pleasure yourself for safety, to keep your vag intact. Stimulate yourself. I'm encouraging. It's not a demand because you're going to do what you want to do. But if you desire to keep your vagina intact, you should ensure that you treat your girl however you identify. You should ensure that you do right by your girl. If she hungry, feed her. How you feed her is your business. But don't deny your urges because somebody told you that's going to fuck you up in life or it's sinful. Don't do that. She don't deserve that. She don't deserve to be treated like that. She doesn't deserve to be suppressed. She doesn't deserve to be closed off. She doesn't deserve that. That's your power, boo. I'm just trying to reclaim my power in orgasm. Go fuck something. Because the power's there. How you channel the power and how you use the power depends on what the outcome will be. But don't deny her. If she growling a little bit and it's somebody you don't need to be fucking with that's inciting her, go pleasure yourself. Half of the time we don't need to see nobody. You just need to masturbate. You think you need that man and you really just need to masturbate, sis. Just let it out. Listen, orgasms help you sleep. Orgasms move energy. Orgasms empower you, refresh you, all of that. Evan Whitney said that. The quote is a lot different than what I'm paraphrasing, but Evan Whitney said that. Orgasms to move energy, orgasms for rest, orgasms for creation, orgasms for pleasure. There's power in your orgasm. So if you keep suppressing it and acting like it doesn't have space for you, you disconnect yourself from internal power that is inherently yours. So do what you wish with that information and Take what applies and leave the rest. But thank you for tapping in to another episode of the Muses Lab, and until we meet again. Thank you for tapping into the Muses Lab. I hope you enjoyed this week's adventure. Be sure to like this episode, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and share the wealth with others. Sign up for my newsletter and join the TML community at www.themuselab.com. Receive weekly musings, early access and exclusive drops, as well as discounts on products and services. Thank you once again for tapping in, and until next time.